For thousands of years, we believed that early humans lived inside dark caves. Hollywood made this image impossible to forget. But there was one problem. Real caves belonged to dangerous predators. Humans needed safer places to survive. So where did early humans actually live? Scientists discovered something surprising. They were not trapped inside caves. They were builders, explorers, and survivors. Their homes changed with the seasons because survival required adaptation. The truth was much more fascinating than the myth. The first clue came from the ground beneath their feet. They built shelters that followed the animals and the changing seasons. Some shelters were temporary, but some were extraordinary. These were not hiding places. They were carefully designed homes. The biggest myth was never about caves. It was about underestimating humans. For decades, archaeologists searched for answers hidden beneath the frozen ground. The evidence revealed a different story. Humans were not simply surviving. They were planning. Their greatest advantage was not strength. It was cooperation. Every tool, every shelter, and every fire represented thousands of years of knowledge. The Ice Age was harsh, but humans had something no other animal possessed. Surviving the Ice Age required more than shelter. It required understanding nature itself. The animals around them were not just threats. They were sources of food, clothing, and survival. One invention changed everything: the controlled use of fire. With fire and skill, humans pushed deeper into the frozen world. The Ice Age was a world of danger, but also a world of opportunity. But surviving the coldest years of Earth required one more thing: a place to call home. A good shelter was not permanent. It was designed for movement and survival. Every journey began with careful preparation, and knowledge passed through generations. Unlike other animals, humans could change their environment instead of simply accepting it. The truth was becoming clear. Humans were never trapped inside caves. Across the Ice Age world, humans created many different kinds of shelters. Some of the most impressive shelters were built from the largest animals of the Ice Age. These shelters were evidence of planning, teamwork, and incredible creativity. A cave was only one place in a huge world of possibilities. The real story of prehistoric humans was not about hiding. It was about exploring. But the Ice Age was not only a battle against cold. It was a battle against uncertainty. The coldest enemy was invisible, the freezing air itself. Their tools were small, but their ideas were powerful. A single sharp tool could mean the difference between survival and failure. The world was frozen, but human imagination was not. But survival was never only about tools. It was about working together as a group. Families and communities became humanity's greatest protection. Knowledge was the secret weapon passed from one generation to the next. Every generation added something new to the story of survival. And slowly, the frozen world became a place humans could truly belong. But one discovery changed everything scientists thought they knew about prehistoric life. Archaeologists found signs of organized camps, not random caves. These camps were temporary, but they were never primitive. The evidence was hidden beneath the ground for thousands of years. The more scientists looked, the less the cave myth made sense. The truth was far more fascinating than the myth people had imagined. They followed animals, seasons, and landscapes, not just the walls of caves. Their homes changed because their world was always changing. The Ice Age was harsh, but it also inspired incredible human creativity. The biggest mistake was imagining prehistoric humans as helpless. For decades, popular culture showed one image: the lonely caveman inside a dark cave. But archaeology does not follow legends. It follows evidence. Ancient people were not waiting for history to happen. They were creating it. The real mystery was not why humans lived outside caves. The real mystery was how humans survived a world that seemed impossible to survive. The answer was not hidden in caves. It was written across the entire landscape. Every shelter told a story about the people who built it. Some shelters disappeared completely, but their clues survived underground. Scientists discovered that prehistoric life was far more complex than anyone expected. The cave was only one chapter. The human story was much bigger. The biggest myth was finally broken. Humans were never just cave dwellers. Humans survived because they adapted faster than the world could change. Their greatest invention was not a shelter. It was cooperation. The Ice Age did not create helpless humans. It created creative ones. And that is why the cave myth tells only a tiny part of the human story. For thousands of years, these forgotten shelters remained silent beneath the frozen ground. Each discovery changed the way we imagined our ancestors. The world they lived in was dangerous, but they were never powerless. Their greatest advantage was the ability to imagine a better future. The story of prehistoric humans was not about caves. It was about adaptation. But even after the evidence was discovered, the old image of the caveman refused to disappear. A simple story was easier to remember, but the real story was far more amazing. Prehistoric humans were explorers, inventors, and problem solvers. Their shelters were not signs of weakness. They were signs of intelligence. The truth about cavemen was never about where they slept, but how they survived. The idea of the cave-dwelling human survived because it was simple, not because it was accurate. The first humans were not trapped by nature. They learned how to live with it. Their greatest achievement was turning a hostile world into a place they could call home. Every tool, every shelter, and every fire represented thousands of years of learning. The cave was never the beginning of the human story. It was only a small piece of it. Today, archaeology continues to reveal a world very different from the one we imagined. The more we discover, the more human the past becomes. They were not creatures hiding from the world. They were explorers shaping their future. The real mystery was never why humans entered caves, but how they conquered the impossible. The myth of the caveman ends here, but the story of humanity continues. But one question still remains. If humans were not living inside caves, where did they actually live? One of the most surprising discoveries was built from the bones of giants. These homes were temporary, but they were carefully designed for survival. Location was everything. Water, animals, resources, and protection decided where humans stayed. A shelter was not just a place to sleep. It was the center of human life. Unlike the myth, prehistoric homes were not dark and empty. They were full of life. The discovery of these shelters changed our understanding of Ice Age humans forever. The cave was only one option among many, and often not the best one. Human survival was never about finding one perfect home. It was about adapting anywhere. The true home of early humans was not a cave. It was the entire world around them. But another mystery remained. How did humans survive the coldest periods of the Ice Age? The secret was not stronger bodies. It was smarter solutions. Clothing became a second shelter, protecting humans from a frozen world. Fire was more than warmth. It was the center of human survival. Survival was not one invention. It was thousands of small ideas working together. The Ice Age was not a world humans escaped. It was a world they learned to master. Every challenge forced humans to become more creative. They did not simply survive the cold. They created a life within it. Their greatest weapon was not stone or bone. It was knowledge passed from one generation to another. And this is the truth behind the so-called cavemen. They were far more advanced than we ever imagined. For generations, the word caveman created the wrong picture. But the evidence tells a different story. The truth was hidden beneath layers of misunderstanding, waiting for science to uncover it. The cave was never the story. Humanity was. Every shelter, every tool, and every fire tells the same story. Humans adapted. The biggest myth about cavemen was never about caves. It was about underestimating humans. The image of the caveman may be simple, but the reality behind it was incredibly complex. Behind every ancient footprint was a decision: where to travel, where to hunt, and where to build. Their world was frozen, but their imagination was limitless. Thousands of years later, their shelters disappeared, but their story remained. And that is the truth about cavemen. They were never just cave dwellers. The next time you hear the word caveman, remember the humans behind the myth. History is not only about what happened, it is about understanding why it happened. The myth of the cave was powerful, but the reality of human survival was even more fascinating. A single discovery can change the way we see thousands of years of human history. Because the greatest story of the Ice Age was never about where humans lived, but how they survived. Subscribe if you love this video. Thanks for watching and join our community.